Uh, I appreciate you hopping on. And, Easton, one of the things I'll say, and I say this without taking a shot at anybody else at the company, very few people can write the premium that you write and have that team that big too. You know what I mean? Like most people have one or the other. Very few have both, and you've done both. So for those that haven't met you yet or don't know your story, can you kind of share that with them, and then we'll dive into our topic?
So I was in just corporate rental car sales before I found this job. And I saw the ad for the company January of 2018. And then 15 months later, I actually passed my test and worked here. So it was like a year and 3 month process where I was reading all the stuff and I was like, there's just no way the Steven guy's doing this stuff. Like I didn't believe any of the stuff that was getting put out. It just seemed crazy because I was already working 70 hours a week. So as you can imagine, it looks weird when you're not in the business. So that's what like drew me into the company. I wanted to be independent contracted. I knew that there was money in commission sales, but it's also really scary. So hence the big delay before I came on. And then, yeah, went through 10-week cycle, the debatably worst selling agent in company's history while I was learning to do this stupid stuff. Just frustrated out of my brains, couldn't figure out like the empathy based sale was really hard. So I was just rushing all my appointments. I didn't care about the people. I wasn't asking any good questions. And I almost put myself, they basically shut off 3 credit cards and like almost put myself out of business and to live outside. So that's kind of how my first, 2.5 months went. And then the culmination of all the training that I was doing mixed with like the really high amount of repetitions that I was getting, it kind of just all came together in this weird 48-hour period where I went back to back days. I went 7,500, 7,500. And it was almost all like America business. So that stuff paid me like 48 hours after that. And then I was like, okay, credit cards paid, breath. Now it's time to restart and go again. And so that's kind of like how I kind of got off the ground and started moving in this business from day one.
So when you say you sucked, like explain that, because you know the other thing that's tough sometimes about our business is people go, "Oh my gosh, that's Easton, 4-time Hall of Fame producer. Oh my gosh, that's Easton, wrote almost $1 million a year by himself." Like they see that. They don't see the very beginning where you're like trying to quit every other hour, right? And some of them are going through that right now. Like let's call it what it is. Like they're going through new agent struggles and they're like, I don't know if this is for me, but I'm going to plug into that call one more time, right? So can you kind of share with them, quote unquote, how bad you were? Because it might put in perspective to them that they might not be as bad as they are.
Well, I will find them and send them to you. So if anybody wants to see the actual screenshots of my weekly posted sales, I have a couple of them that I saved that I can stare at every time that I'm like, hey, this is hard. I'm like, dude, grow up. Remember when you were doing 44 appointments a week and you sold $312 of AP after spending 2 grand? Remember those days? Yeah. So you're going to be fine. Let's get back on the phone and, talk to some more new guys and kind of get some steam rolling again. But it was, dude, I was 38 to 44 appointments. I had my first 40 appointment week, my second week here. So like the appointment booking things when we are running all in the field stuff, that part was like relatively simple to me to get people to kind of say that I could have an appointment with them, and then transferring those 40 plus appointments into how many of those are legitimate real appointments. That was like the next phase of the struggle. Cause like, dude, how do you have 44 appointments and you sit with 6 people all week? Like that's just as frustrating as having 5 appointments and not selling anything, except for it's a lot more driving, so that was like the whole second wave of my learning in the business was, okay, so this appointments versus real and then fake appointments thing, that I do need to adjust. I could get a lot of people to go, hey, there's a really good chance I'll be home right around this time. Call me on the way. And I'm like, dude, might be the best appointment I've ever booked, honestly. And I'd put it down in the calendar, drive to their house for no reason, 45 minutes one way for them not to be home yet because they said we might possibly. And I couldn't figure out that part for a little bit. That was like the second big correction. But one thing that I will give myself credit for is I wasn't confused that leads equaled cash flow. Like that was something and it was a little bit like on the naive, maybe aggressive side. Like, dude, I was so poor. I had no business doing 2,500 out of the gate my first week. That was wild to do. But at least I wasn't bashful. I would rather probably have it that way than go, hey, I went and snagged $100. I'm going to see what I can do. Because that's not going to give you a realistic pool of like, how many people do you need to call to convert that into a sale? So the lead flow thing, at least that part I was good at, swiping the card because it didn't seem like my money. It was fake money to me. Became a lot more real when they started turning them off. But that that phase of the business was, I felt like pretty black and white, and then converting fake appointments to real appointments, and then slowing down to understand that people purchase this for a reason. Why is that? That was like the ultimate, like, oh, now I figured out how to ask people why it was important to them and what happens without it. And then I would get to the end and they were like, why do you need my bank info? And I'm like, oh yeah, didn't have any structure. So that was my final puzzle piece, was like, this is what we're going to do today, Stephen. I'm going to ask you these questions. We're going to shop a carrier, find a company, pick a price, get an application rolling, and make sure that they will take you for what you're looking for. Dude, once that stuff came together, it was like homeless human ATM. And it was like, it was a couple months span of time, but it was relatively quickly in the like scape of like a long sales career. It was just 2.5 months of literal hell. And then I was like, okay, the why part's there, the understanding that it needs to be a little bit slower of a process. It's not I'm 6.5 minutes in trying to figure out how much they want to spend. And then packaging that with a structure piece of, hey, just so you know, this is what my job is, and this is what we're going to do today, and this is how it works. That kind of stuff started to be really, really powerful. And all of the like bigger premium sales, that came through repetitions and learning how to find and move money around in the house. But just from a baseline of sales, understand why it's important to them, and then let them know what our job is and how it works. So that way, at least everyone's on the same page. Because if they go, dude, I'm under no circumstance ever giving you that information, like, don't sit there for 45 minutes or try to stay on the phone or sit on Zoom, or, it's a little different now, but that's kind of like how it started, and some like major shifts that I made early.
See, here's what's cool. Like, you were able to put it on your credit card. Like, dude, when I started this business, my back was against the wall. I was like so far down below rock bottom, like below zero. I couldn't even get a credit card if I wanted. Like, my credit score was like 580. All the credit cards I had were already maxed out. And I was like, literally, I had like $700 to my name. And so like, I say this because, we have brand new agents that always come into this business. And I just shared this with Harold and his team on his call. Like, what's more dangerous? A person that only spends $500 in leads as a brand new agent, or an agent that has 2,000 and that's like their last 2,000 and they spend all 2,000, right? Because most brand new people go, oh, the scarier one is the 2,000, when in actuality it's the 500, because you don't have enough leads and you're brand new and you suck, right? But it's like, if you get the 2,000, you'll accidentally trip into sales. Like, it always happens, right? And so like I was sharing this with, I had an agent that I just did a KPI call with, right? And he's a great agent. He can rip 20, 30 a month on his own if he wants. He's a sharp guy. And he goes, man, I've been struggling the last few weeks. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, dude, I'm spending $300 a week and I expect to write 10, like 10 grand. He's like, yep. And I'm like, bro, like, do you understand how disrespectful that is? Because like, everybody else has to spend a 1,500 to $2,000. You want to spend a fifth of their lead cost and write the same premium. Like, that's where skills have to come in. If you spend 1,500, $2,000, you don't have to be good. You just need to have appointments. The ones, like you said, the ones that will buy on their own, right? And so when did it click for you? Because like you said, overnight, 7,500 back-to-back days. When did that actually happen? And how many times did you want to quit before that actually happened?
That's a unique question. I obviously, everyone's like, dude, I thought about quitting every other day. And I don't know that I thought about necessarily quitting. I just thought like, dude, what if I can't do this? Like, I wasn't in the, like, I do need to quit. And then also you get 15, like almost 15 grand in credit card debt in 2.5 months that you like have piled up on yourself. How else am I going to go make $15,000 back by doing anything else but this?
Right.
So it was like, so now I leave and go get a job where that's like half my annual salary. Like, I'm not doing that again, so I don't know if it was going to be necessarily a quit thing, but that pinnacle of self-doubt was definitely, week 8 when the second one got shut off. And then, dude, let's not pretend like I had big card, dude. I maybe had like between 4 and 5 grand a card. And thankfully I'd already had 2 of them, before I got here, that I didn't know what a credit card really was. I never used one much. So that was like my saving grace. And then, the uphill and the snow stuff was, these are $20 to $30 Facebook final expense leads that you had to wait 4 days after purchase to generate. So you're on a rolling timeline where now that $500 lead purchase, if you can go track something for $3 or $4 per lead down, you're still going to have a massive advantage. And the guy that'll go in on $2,000 on something like that, dude, it's literally impossible to lose now. Like there's no way $2,000 leads are $4 to $8. Like, dude, you can get such a volume that you are going to figure it out. The big switch, it was almost it was a really sad appointment, and she's not here any longer. She was an active cancer patient. I met with this husband and a wife, and like I walked in there, and she's like, no hair, visibly sick, dude. You can tell when someone's like that far along in their cancer treatment. And I walked in and just kind of sat down and was just like, so why did you guys now start looking into this stuff? And like, what's been kind of your story? Tell me a little bit about what's going on with you guys, so that I could just give them a chance to like speak. And they laid everything out. She's like, this is what I'm going through. Like, I know that I'm strong and I think I can take this thing down. This isn't the first time that I've gone through it. So it's, she's an obvious AI. This was a high risk client. So she has the 2-year wait no matter what. She said, I'm not worried about it. I know I can beat it. And he said, imagine if something happens to me tomorrow, like, who is going to help her? Like, who is going to take her back and forth and pay for the treatments? And he had a good job, so that was a very, like, from a sales standpoint, it was a really big home, because without him, even though she was sick, like, dude, there was no way she was going to get to and from medical appointments. They didn't have enough that they had saved on the side to handle that stuff. Whatever they could yank out of their 401k wasn't going to go far after they lose 30% overnight. So like all of these different factors, and they're just like crying and like pouring themselves into me, telling me what's going on. I was like, dude, this is like scary real. Like what I'm actually doing in this house. Like, this is such a big necessity for both, really. That was like a big perspective shift. And a lot of people say it's when you lose your first client, but I think sitting with someone who was so sick, and a husband who was so desperate to, like, no matter what happens, I need to make sure, like, if something crazy happens to me, that she's going to be okay. That was like a big, like, light bulb, wake up call, whatever you want to call it, where like I physically got to see someone who didn't have much time left. That, can you imagine if she could have tracked something down prior to being sick? Like, that's all that they cared about.
Right.
So that was, the kind of the culmination of just like, I got a chance to ask why, and then just going, hey, this is what my job is. I'm here to help. Circumstances are what they are. I will show you exactly what you guys can get, and then you just got to aim me in the right direction for how much you want. And like, it was that straightforward. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't all this crazy techniques to sell. It was just like, dude, how can I help? Let me know. Obviously, this is why you want it. And I just kind of like lived in the appointment for the first time. And then when I left, it was like pretty emotional deal for me. And I'm not, not really a big thing that we do in our men's side of the family, but it was like, wow, this is really heavy. And so that, it just like changed how I started like looking and treating every single client and appointment, where like, there was an old training that was like, if you, before you walked into that door, you said, what if this, like, with 100% certainty that tomorrow is it for them, how do you behave in the house?
Right.
And like, now that I got to see it, like, if I would have, 24 hours before diagnosis, I could get in there and help her. Like, can you imagine what benefit that would have been to her husband? So anyway, I know it was maybe a little heavier than everyone was hoping, but that's literally what kind of came to for me.
Dude, that's so crazy you say that, because I remember I had a client. I used to run travel trips every weekend from Southern California to like Central California. And my appointment setter had sent me an appointment on Saturday morning, 8 o'clock. Usually for me, like Saturday morning at 8 is either a guarantee sale or a guarantee no show. It's like not either. It's either one or the other. It's nothing in between. And I remember I showed up to the guy's house at 8. He wasn't there yet. And so I was like, great, I'm getting no show. I called the guy. He goes, hey, I'm around the corner. I'll be there soon. He walks out of his car with a Bible in his hand. And he was so calm. And I was like, what the heck is going on? Right? Like, normally, like, if someone's late to an appointment, they're like, I'm sorry, man. Let me get that for you. Whatever. Like, he's taking his time, just walking to the home, just real calm. And I'm like, that's different. He opens the door for me. We sit in his living room, and he goes, son, you can't help me. And I've already ripped a ton of insurance. And I'm kind of like, how many times have I heard that? Right? He's like, I can definitely help you, man. I work with 30 different companies, take you with blah, 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 blah. He goes, no. You can't help me. What do you mean? He goes, well, I filled out that form. Y'all had called me on a Wednesday. No, he goes, I filled that form out on like a Tuesday, Wednesday. Y'all had called me on a Thursday, Friday to schedule the appointment for today, which is Saturday. In between the phone calls, I went to the doctor and found out I got stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And he goes, you literally can't help me. I got less than 30 days. And I'm sitting there going, I don't even know what I can run an AIG, but like, what's the point? Right. And I was like, what is your plan? And he said, I'm going to buy a one-way ticket with my kids to Italy. We're going to vacation and I'm going to go peacefully out there. And I remember I shook his hand and we were like crying together. Got in the car, bro, and I literally sat in like a McDonald's parking lot for like 30 minutes because I was like, my next one's at like 9:30 or whatever it is. Dude, that day nobody could tell me no. Like everybody was buying. Like you go about, like you shared about how that the training that we had, because I know exactly who said it, said, imagine if this was the client's last day. I literally witnessed it like you were talking about. And
Yeah.
that day, everybody bought. Like they didn't have a choice to say no to me. And I'm like, if we just took that philosophy into our daily, weekly sales, like we would be better agents. All of us would be.
You gotta sell with a little passion, but sometimes it takes a little kicker to like, damn, now this is like a real scenario for me. Because how many stories did you hear prior about like, hey, I went through this and then it was real? Like I've heard the story about like Sean's first like death claim and
Yep.
Brian's personal family story. Like, dude, I've heard all that stuff before, but I think until it happens to you where you're like face to face with someone who's like they're walking, through that door, where you're like, dude, this is like horrifyingly real. And yes, no one's here because they want to be struggling the rest of their life. I get it. But like that piece, if you can take it with you, like, hey, this is a service-based sales business with empathy. Like, I think that's how you become these 40, 50, 60 plus, families helped every single month type of producer. Because you're coming from a place of passion and then obviously you're working hard. It's a really good mix for a high level producer guy or girl.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the nice part too is, and we'll transition into our topic now because I don't want to be, I don't want to keep crying on these calls. Easton, you've gone Hall of Fame 4 times and you've done it in every facet. You've gone face to face, you've done the telesales, and now you're working on Zoom too. It's like you want to check almost every box of how to go Hall of Fame you possibly can. Can you share with the agents, especially those that are new, because there's debates, right? They go, this is the way, that is the way, or this is the only way. You've done it in every way. What's the common denominator for people that want to produce at a high clip? Like, what is your answers to that?
Man, I think that there's obviously a million ways that you can like, I don't know, skin a cat seems like a weird thing to say, but like there is tons and tons of different ways to like do this at a really high level from sales and building. Like you see a bunch of different versions happening right now of people that are doing it their own way, but it's all working.
Mm-hmm.
So the consistent thing is going to be someone who you put in the time, and you have to care about the people that you're working with. Like you care about the clients that you're trying to help. Universally the same. If I'm like, hey, Steven, I really need you to sell 10,000 because like based on my spread, this is what I need to make off you this month. What an odd way to like try to run a business. And then you're going to go 100% not working for him. There's got to be someone else I could do this with because he sucks and I don't like him.
Right.
The biggest consistency is guys and girls that will get through that initial learning phase. And then as you start to make those subtle improvements, whether it's a little extra production or you start hiring a little bit more people, you don't like settle into the complacency speech that everybody gives. But it's a real thing. You can't have like 1 or 2 good weeks or 1 or 2 good months and then go, dude, I've totally got it figured out. That was the nice thing for me by getting to work with Zach, is like it was just like following directly behind someone that was going the exact place that I wanted to be at. So he was doing 38 to 44 appointments also. And then he had, Hall of Fame, came back and did it again, built a Hall of Fame agency. So it would have been really weird if I was just like, hey, now that I've done it, I'm literally never helping anyone again. And like, now that I've, hey, we've got 25 agents. And like, what I'm going to do is hopefully they don't sell too much so that I can just comfortably stay here as long as possible. It's a weird way to get your business to grow and profitably grow. I would say there's a good balance between, hey, I want to put 100 people in the funnel and get them all to start versus like, hey, let's put 50 in and then find 10 that you enjoy working with. And how do we help them if they're doing the correct actions? How do we get them to go 5, 10, 15 plus? That third month, that non-negotiable, hey, I need to, that's what Zach was literally just talking about today. Right. Once you get that third month, your minimum of 15, how do we get you to the next level? What are you missing? Are you tracking your numbers? And I started keeping track, and I'm going to share this with you guys today because I started doing it because of, we'll just say, I don't know, maybe complaining is like a rude way to put it, but uncertainty of what they felt about like internet leads. So I just have been buying internet leads and getting internet leads to turn into Zoom appointments. And I've been tracking all of my numbers for the last couple of weeks. And I saved an Excel sheet that I'm going to show you from literally like 2 weeks ago, because this last week we were on the road a little bit. Consistency in volume of appointments, number of dials, number of interviews per week, like those have got to stay the same across the board. If you have, it's the same thing as 30 appointments a week that you're selling. If the next week you only have 5, you're going to notice the difference. And the same thing with interviews. If you have, and it doesn't have to be 30, maybe you start with 10 and then you work into 15 and then you work into 20, and then you can get a staff to help you like siphon through some of the higher level interviews. So then maybe you go back down to 10, but it's all really high quality. Again, there's a ton of different ways to do it. But you sit at first, when it's just you and you're trying to get off the ground, you have to have the volume of appointments, and then you have to have the right number of interviews or referral interviews or whatever that looks like on your warm market building side. Or, if you want to spend money immediately and run cold market ads, you can. But the math equation of the insurance business, dude, it's not like it's tricky. You have to put in the volume early, and you have to talk to enough clients, and you have to talk to enough potential agents.
Right. So I love that. So it's basically a math calculation for you, which is nice because it takes out talent. Because people go, he's talented, or so-and-so is talented. Like, dude, we're not playing basketball. Or like, by the way, for those of you that don't know, Easton's he's a collegiate national champion pole vaulter, which is really, really cool.
NAI, don't forget that part.
Which is awesome. But you're still a national champion. But like, that takes talent. Dude, we're selling insurance. It doesn't require talent. It requires numbers. You need to have a lot of numbers in your favor. Like, I've literally watched people in some of these people's offices where I'm like, that guy's not very good, but he has 35, 40 appointments a week, and he's going to trip on sales, literally trip into sales, right? How did you get to a point where you were selling at a very high clip and also building at one too? Because that's the one that most people can't figure out. That's the question that, like, everywhere I go, I get asked that question. How did you become Hall of Fame producer and Hall of Fame agency? And I'm like when you hear it enough, you're like, is it really that big of a deal? You know what I mean? And I'm assuming you probably get that too, Jake, Zach, everybody. What is your take on that?
Well, dude, I think you develop a skill set from running enough appointments, however you're going to run your appointments. Again, you just talked about it. You could do field, phone, Zoom, a combo, whatever. Initially, when it was all field stuff for us, it was Thursday to Sunday. That's my revenue generating time from sales. I feel like for the most part, people get it nowadays because it's not this like insane concept of, hey, if you want a $10 million opportunity, you don't get to take Saturdays and Sundays off immediately, because that's weird that you just, you work 40 hours, but then you're $10 million. That's bizarre. And I would say that the majority of people get that, just the actual doing part, where it's like stuff comes up on Saturday and Sunday and you're like, man, rather not be on the phone today, to be honest. But that was like, hey, we just agreed, like, this is going to be our schedule. So we go Thursday to Sunday is we're dialing to run 30 appointments in the field, so like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I would have 10, 10, 10, or like 11, 11, and 9. But I would always have, like my 30 appointments that I can get them in over the weekend, which gives me all of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to like bring on new people, do the new agent boot camps, do the one-on-one calls, set up their schedules. But I have 3 full recruiting days during my week. And then Thursday, I'm already back on the phone, setting up my Friday, Saturday, Sunday run days. And I was doing this while I was traveling. So I would be in a different state, like Thursday to Sunday, Thursday to Monday-ish. It kind of depends on the weekend, but I was basically doing this loop where I would get back either super late Monday night or like Tuesday. And then I would have either like a full Tuesday home, which I would, do some interviews and like, try to sneak in a brief dinner with my wife, because then I was literally flying back out Wednesday morning to the next place. And so when I was in the plane, I was like texting or emailing to, do the follow-up, like, hey, are you still going to be on? Because I touched down at, 1:30, so I'm going to be good by 2. And I was just, everything was very, very scheduled out and planned. This, like, I'm just going to outwork everybody without a game plan is crazy. I did that for a little while. I was just like, dude, I'll just do 90 hours a week. And like, I'm going to be able to outwork everyone so much. I'm going to be able to build this big business. And then like 12 months later, like I had just hit VP, and 93,000 of that came from personal production. So not really. So I was like, okay, so this like working a lot has definitely had its advantages. Like I figured out the kind of the sales stuff and at a high level ish in a smaller amount of time, but not having that, dude, once I did that shift, which guess who that came from? Freaking Zach. Cause I just asked, how did you do it? And he goes, dude, I stopped trying to sell during the week, and I just only did interviews and like building stuff. And I was like, oh, So just sell over the weekend, build during the week, and then do it over again. And you just like, it's very boring. It's very monotonous. It's the same stuff every single week. You just do it over and over and over. And then he's like, yeah. And then we're doing like $1.5 million a month. And I was like, damn, that doesn't sound like a terrible idea. I will try that, please. And I just kind of like followed suit with him. And so we we're just putting what was working on a repeat.
Right.
And that's pretty much how we got to like where we're at now.
Yeah, I love that answer because I was literally, I mean, this was the time when you and Zach, I mean, Zach was living out in Vegas and you guys would fly in here and there to come visit. And I'm like, dude, how do you do it? And he literally gave me the same answer like yours. He was like, look, dude, if I rip 10 on the weekend, why do I got to sell on Tuesday and Wednesday? And I was like, I don't know. That's actually a really good question. He goes, well, you don't have to. He goes, it'd be a great time to build your business. You know what I mean? And that's when I was like, all right, cool. Let me take the Thursday, Friday, Saturday schedule and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to build schedule. And I was like, okay, 3 days to sell, 3 days to recruit and build. And I'm like, dude, that makes sense. And that's when our agency exploded. Like, I remember looking at the numbers when I came here to Vegas, like we were hanging at like 350, like 3-4 months. And then we skipped 400 and went to 500. We were at 500 for like 3-4 months. And then we went from 650, 850, 1 million, literally in a 4-month span. And I remember like going, how the hell did we do that? And it was because of what Zach said. I was like, dude, like if we crank on these days, like how do you double in volume? You can have someone write double the insurance, but it's hard to have someone that's already writing $50,000, $60,000 of insurance to go, hey, write 120, right? Instead of getting some new folks and having them write 10 apiece. And so like that made sense to me. And that's the reason why I was like, got it. Like it's now time to focus on other people. Stop being so selfish about your personal production, focus on others, help them get there, and then everything would take care of itself. So I love that. What are some questions that you ask to see if it's a good fit for you in your group? Like, what does your process look like?
When I'm kind of establishing like the builders type thing,
like when you're recruiting and trying to bring agents to join the disruption group, like what do you do?
I go, hey, do you watch the Q&A video? Like that's the first question.
Okay.
In general, it's the same thing. Clients get 4 objections. Well, agents have like the same 20 minutes worth of questions. So Zach, because his IQ is so large, he built a Q&A video that's 19 minutes long of all the exact same Q&A questions that people have about, hey, I don't understand what a chargeback is. What do you mean you guys have to buy leads? Like, can you explain it to me? And it just goes 20 minutes and he literally goes through it and answers it. So, hey, watch the overview video. Hey, I think I can do this. I have some questions. Sweet. Watch this. Did you watch the Q&A video? Like, yes, I need some clarity. Dude, let's get on. And so I want to make sure that like people that I'm talking to, like they've seen the overview and they're like, ooh, insurance sales, high commission, interested. Like I have some questions. Sweet. Here's a 20-minute pre-recorded video from one of the fastest growing integrity partners in our entire company. He'll be answering these for you. It takes out like all the crazy questions of like, so am I forced or required to buy leads? It's like, no, I just don't know how to turn you into a multiple 6-figure earner without leads, because that's the only way that I know how to do that. Right. And now that we have leads, referrals, reviews, it's different. So there's definitely multiple ways where you can build revenue without necessarily having to buy as many leads for sure. But from a baseline, if you don't have a big warm market, like I did not, I needed some access to clients who were interested in what we sell. So I like them to watch that stuff. And then when we get on the phone, I'm like, what has you looking for a change? What are you doing now? I want to know what they're up to and what is the level of success that they've had and why are they looking for a change? Because if this is like their 6th opportunity in 18 months, something's going on and it's probably not the leadership at 6 consecutive companies. So I want to get a little bit deeper into why do you keep going opportunity, opportunity, opportunity? And if they're like, hey, if you can lay down, like, I can tell you specifically what I disliked about corporate rental, like exactly why I wanted to get out, my experience, passing on promotions via results, didn't matter. Like I can break that down for you. So if you were like, hey, I was promised this, I got there, here's what I executed, and none of the pay was there. Or like they said I was going to go and hammer doors and this was going to be my pay and that they were going to pay me 6 months later, no checks. I'm like, totally get it. So as long as we are like on the same page with what you felt like you were missing, what did you love about it? Hey, dude, I love the sales culture. We had this like killer sales culture. As a whole, maybe you didn't like a leader, or maybe the guys you were working directly with weren't great, and maybe the pay wasn't what you were hoping, but you still liked the job. whatever that is. I just need to understand why they're looking for a change and what their prior experience was. Dude, I'm biased, but I love ex-athletes in any capacity because they're so used to having to fail every day, practice, tournaments, games, whatever sport you play. Dude, you've definitely got your ass kicked and had to show up the next week. And if you screwed up, you're the one that has to do the extra conditioning. And then you still have to come back to practice in front of your whole team after that. So I love guys that have been through some stuff, whether it's sales or athletics or military, like all those guys have experienced stuff. And then it's the expectation piece. Like, Steven, that it would be super weird for you to come here, work 40 hours a week and clear 500 grand your first year. Like, we agree that that's strange, right? Because you've been working 40 hours, making 43 grand like I was, and that's not really how this is going to work. When you see the crazy stuff like what Steven's doing and what Giordano's doing and like Zach and Jake, and you see all these like guys, that they work like a lot, right? And you don't have to do that, but you're not going to borrow their income working half as much or less. And they're like, totally makes sense. And they're like, the thing that worries me the most would be, I'm just looking where I can go somewhere with better work-life balance. I'm like, eventually, yes, but this is not where you want to start your sales career if you're just looking to be able to take an extra day off a week, because that's going to hurt you probably pretty bad. So I'm trying to hammer on all of the big things that are going to either hurt someone. I want to go in depth over like how the insurance business works. Hey, you lose like 30% of your business every 13 months. Hey, what does that mean? Then I'll explain it and we'll go through everything. And like, dude, that's the insurance numbers. Now, we talked about that. We can fix it with some IUL and annuity business in there, but I want them to understand it's the simplest business on the planet. We buy leads, we call people that ask for it, and then we see how we can help them. Pretty straightforward. The problem is, how do you do with days where you make 13 hours of phone calls, you have two people that answer and they both tell you to eat it? Are you going to be all right? Do you think you can show back up on Tuesday? Because I promise you that day sucks for everybody, but we still have to go to work on Tuesday because it's to eat what you kill. That's literally how it works in commission sales. So I'm just trying to go a little bit deeper to understand, why, if they've got building experience or sales experience, I'll tell them, hey, typically when I bring on high level quote unquote sales guys, sometimes they struggle the most. And here's why: because you feel like you don't have anything to learn and you've never sold this type of product before, because it's an invisible one. It's not a car. It's not a solar. It's not a pest thing. Like, they can't see what they're buying. They're buying it for somebody, but they don't actually get to taste it. Or whatever. So I think just as brutally honest as I can be with everyone that I'm interviewing, and then go, Steven, it seems like we're like kind of on the same page with this. Is this something you're just looking for like a new job, or are you looking for like a potentially large long-term career? If they're like, I definitely am, more looking on a career path. I'm like, got it. So the sales part is like entry level to making multiple six-figure income. You can definitely bang a lot of income just by selling and never teaching anyone else. The career path in insurance is how many people can you bring with you and teach them how to succeed. I was like, that's the career version of what we do here. And I promise you that they do reward you when you do that version of the business. And then if they're like, I saw the team stuff, I'm more interested in that, or like me, I was like, I want to be sold. I don't ever want to talk to anyone. Please leave me alone. Let me sell and not be bothered. That's what I'm looking for. Sweet. I have a perfect place to plug you in, but I just need to know, what do they want? What do they think they want? And how do I like navigate them so that they're getting out of this what they're looking for, instead of me going, you have to come here and build and sell $1 million a year and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, dude, I just want to make extra $5,000 a month. Can you please relax? Right. So that's like communication stuff that I'm trying to get out in these interviews up front.
Dude, so it's a lot of just setting real expectations for them.
Yep. Pretty easy. Well, straightforward anyway.
Because so many of us used to recruit like, hey, this is the best thing ever. It's the easiest thing you ever do, blah, 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 blah. And then people get in here and get their teeth kicked in and they go, this sucks. And then they quit because we never talk about how hard it actually was. Right.
Yep.
And dude, like Easton said, man, like if you think you were just going to roll in here and make $500,000 working 40 hours a week, like you're in for a treat. Cause like, I don't think people that make $100,000 a year work, it's easy for them to work in corporate America. So absolutely 100% agree with you. This past weekend, we had a chance to discover IULs and annuities and the actual true persistency behind it. Right. I've been one, and I'm going to admit it personally, and I'll say this for like the next month and a half or two before I stop getting off this and going, like, now I've said it enough times. I got away from IULs and annuities, although I've written them, because it was a quote unquote more complex sale, right? And I thought it was going to distract the agent from being profitable selling something simplified like final expense mortgage. We've learned that that's not the case anymore. And not only that, the persistency on IULs and annuities are through the roof. Like, what was it, like 92% or something with NLG, F&G, and Ethos? Like, something ridiculous.
Yeah. Yep.
And I say that because, you know, a lot of these competitors, what they do is they go, hey, you know, David, we're going to sit down and we're going to do a practice presentation with your friends and family and blah, 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 blah. And then they sell their warm market and they keep all the commissions and you're SOL, right? Obviously, we're not doing that here. We're never going to take food off the table for our own agents. But the reason why that business model works is because number one, there's a lot of trust already there. And number two, the product's really, really good, Easton. When that guy quits, guess what? Their family members still keep the product because it's a really good one, you know?
Dude, they're so good.
Right. And so you've been writing quite a bit of cases, big cases too, with IULs. Can you kind of share how like you've been able to implement that into your schedule? Because you're still writing your traditional life business, your simplified life business, but you're still adding these high ticket items too. Like, how did you do that, blend that into your schedule?
Dude, I literally did it the same way that I transitioned into virtual. So I've seen people panic and they see the new shiny diamond and they're like going all in on this thing that they don't understand or know how to do. So I started picking up 1 day a week where I was adding IUL specific calls to like set up appointments to close, whether it's same day or that week, but I was only doing that for 1 day a week. And then I started adding an extra day where like, okay, so Sunday went pretty good. So I'm going to start calling these guys on Saturday and Sunday. Maybe I can set some up for Saturday night and then like all day Sunday. And then I can do my simplified ticket, fast cash business. I have the majority of my week still. We're like, dude, I'm going to pick up, you know, my 8 to 10 in regular sales. And then I know that these take 3 to 6 weeks, a lot of them. And if they're big cases, do buckle up for at least 90 days, especially the large ones. So like you have to understand that part where if you know, people forget that Juan Franco sold Hall of Fame on final expense leads, dude. They just see that he sold 1.3 million in IUL business and they're like, I want what he has. But he did the trailer house door to doors, dude, for a full year and he sold Hall of Fame. But so he understood the sale. And then he goes, I think I can figure out a better way to be more profitable, get some time back. I want to try this. But he had already stocked up on skills and cash flow that he could do that. And he also didn't do it overnight. They built it out for 4 months and then he started it in April. And from April to December of last year is when he did 1.3. Wow. So, you know, it was very, it cycled in gradually. So I'm like doing my mini version of that where I was like picking up 1 day, then picking up 2 days. I just, dude, it's like crack for me. I can't not do the simplified sales. I like it a lot. Right. And it's like what I learned in the business. So I never want to give up final expense internet mortgage. Like I love those appointments still. Having these supplement your cash flow, knowing it's 3 to 6 weeks out, like, dude, who cares? Like I'm still doing my regular business first and I'm handling what I need to handle. And then I can supplement that over the weekends. You know, that 15 to, once you pick up 15 to 20 apps in a month, then you can start supplementing, you know, maybe 1 day of IULs and, you know, then you can get into 2 days. But I don't want people to rush into it so fast that they go 6 weeks without a paycheck and then 5 of those get declined, because that is how you go out of business. Right. So that's like my biggest caution. Like, dude, they're so important for your profitability and they're phenomenal products. Add them in, but don't hurt yourself getting in a rush because the appointments are so easy, dude. They're like, hey, I watched the video. This is what I want. I have a couple of questions. I'm probably only going to do like 500 a month. Like, dude, 500 a month? I was doing $22 on a Transamerica paper application that I had to fax in 4 years ago. You guys are just throwing 500 a month out, you know? So it's like this gratifying, it doesn't feel like you're selling anything. They're so easy, but they take time to pay.
Dude, the other thing that's really cool too is like, I looked at that as, you know, Joe Miller called it parachute money. Like we'd write them and we'd follow up with them, but we never expected it to land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if it dropped into your mailbox or your cash, your bank account, you're like, oh, dang, like that's kind of nice. You know what I mean? That's how I would take the approach of adding IULs and annuities is like, I'm not just going to reshift my entire focus, like Easton said, and go, all right, let's drop every county, every lead order that we have and switch over to this. Like, no, that'd be very foolish. But being able to add, you know, a sale or two or a few a week to be able to build up that funnel for it so that when they start dropping, let's say they start dropping once a month, once every other week. And then you start building that cash flow to the point where, like you're talking about with Juan, where it starts to actually make a lot of sense. Dude, he said something that messed me up this past weekend. And he said he issued $100,000 in premium and spent less than $2,000 on leads. Like that messed me up.
Dude, 108 on the board last month on 2Gs.
Yeah.
Because he is a referral maniac.
And dude, it's in that type of business, they will definitely give you referrals. because it's such a phenomenal product, right? And what I want people to understand too, it's like nobody said get rid of your final expense mortgage protection. Dude, go help them with those things. That's your foot in the door, right? If you're there for mortgage, sell mortgage. But go, hey man, I have something I want to show you. Do you have anything set up for a tax-free retirement? Or some permanent insurance or income replacement, whatever it is. That's we call it a BAM fam. We haven't taught this in a while. Book a meeting from a meeting. Hey, next week, I'm going to show you some stuff, blah, 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 blah. Get back in next week and be able to add on and add on and add on. The second sale is always easier than the first one because the trust is already built. You know what I
And
mean?
they're building out high leverage systems where you're going to have boot camps for IULs and annuities both. And then now I feel like there's so many people that have at least kind of dove into that IUL business that you can definitely reach out and just like get some baseline help. And if you're not plugging in to the SRS trainings, it's free. And they're literally going over all the stuff that you're going to ask. Call NLG and have them go through an illustration with you. Call Athene and have them review. And dude, that's literally what the company's job is. You want us to use your products, dude, train me and call and force them to, because that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
And then you don't have to go, how do I get this information? You call a carrier and you can literally have them build out exactly what you want to see. And then, hey, Steven, I built this IUL. Can you help me review the presentation and show me how to go through it with the client? Dude, I'd love to. And then you can literally help them after not doing the 30-minute call that you're forcing Athene to do now, or NLG or whoever, until they learn how to actually build them out on their own. So there's a ton of resources that we should not be missing.
Well, Easton, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for being able to hop on and drop this gem on us, because dude, it's one of the things that's different about our industry. It's like at FFL, we have so much talent and we have so many people that rip at that caliber that you do, that we just think it's normal, unfortunately. And it's like, if we took the entire insurance industry and then put our numbers up with them, like you'd be like the 0.001 of the top agents in the entire country. And like,
Appreciate
what's crazy
that,
is we
You're
go, he's just a friend of ours. You know what I mean? Like that's normal for us, but like, that's what I want some of our guys to understand is like, dude, what he does, what you guys do, that's not normal. It's normal for us because of the platform that we have. And I'm so thankful for you to be able to hop on, man, and sharing with us. Cause one of the things that we talked about too at our meeting was like, there's no more secrets. Like all these other companies and all these other places and agencies, they're like, this is what we do and you can't know. And it's like one of the best things that we do here is we just share amongst what works best for everybody, because sooner or later I'm going to need a favor back too, and Easton, I appreciate you for hopping on and sharing this with us, man. If there's anything we can ever do to return the favor, you let me know. But thank you so much for having us, for you hopping on with us and dropping some gems, dude. I appreciate you, man.